I hope so, people. I keep getting emails. I need to boost my grades. Well, let's prepare for this quiz and let's see if we can do well. All right, let me find another one. And we'll do some. Okay, where's my paper?
Thank you.
All right, let's see what we got over here. All right, let's look at this one. 1 minus 2 sine squared plus sine to the 4th equals cosine to the 4th. Now, in your memory bank now, because now we're back to these, you have to just use the ones you have memorized. So in your memory bank, are there any identities for the 4th powers? No. So please, I know you think you can rewrite cosine, or no, you know to write cosine squared is 1 minus sine squared. That is perfectly legit. But it is not true to the 4th power, all right? So please don't try to do any substitutions like that with the 4th power. There are things we can do, but not that. That's not true. Anyone have an idea? Well, May? I could factor out the sign if I had one here, but I don't. So remember when you factor, and I hate to call this a polynomial, but it's like a polynomial, you have to take it out of everything. You can't take it out of just, part of it. So I'm not going to factor out a sign. I like your idea of factoring, though. This does factor, but it factors into two binomials. Does anyone see how that factors? Think about it like regular x's. Think about it as though it were 1 minus 2x squared plus x to the 4th. Could you factor something that looked like that? What did you say, Trey? So this guy would factor as 1 minus x squared and 1 minus x squared. Isn't that the way that would factor? So how will this factor? 1 minus sine squared and 1 minus sine squared? Wait a minute, 1 minus sine squared. What's 1 minus sine squared? Cosine squared. So now you've got cosine squared times cosine squared. We're multiplying, so that would be cosine to the 4th. Okay, good news. All right, let's try another one. All right, so I'm going to just throw this up here, and then you're going to do it. All right, so we're pretending it's tomorrow. You walk into the room, I hand you a piece of paper, and the only thing written on the paper is this. So everybody in the room has to put something down right now. Everybody write something down. Even if you think it's wrong, write down something.
This is 1 plus what?
Cosine. A. Here's what happens when I grade these papers. If you don't write down anything, I get really mad. Put some kind of like on your paper. If you write down something that is absolutely absurd, but at least you wrote down something, I will probably say, what are you doing? But I'll give you a couple points for it. So, what did you write down? I'm going to put someone on the spot. What did you write down, Addison?
I changed cosecant to 1 over sine, and then changed cotangent to sine over cos.
I think that's a marvelous idea. Raise your hand if you were thinking along the same lines as Addison. Good. I think that's a wonderful way to start. Now, if I'm doing the problem, because I always simplify my complex fractions this way, I'm going to multiply everything by sine. If you want to go ahead, these have a common denominator. If you want to go ahead and write them as one fraction and then invert and multiply, that would be fine too. But I'm going to multiply everything by sine. I just have to remember to do everything by it. That should be an A. So what happens? Well, on the top, I'm going to have sine squared. Would you agree? And on the bottom, all this goes away, so I have 1 minus cosine. So this is where I am. This is where I need to be. What do you think?
So you could do cosine minus 1, or no, 1 minus cosine on top.
1 minus cosine squared?
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Now let's talk about why that should occur to you to do that, or why you should be thinking about that. Look at your goal. Are there any signs in that? No, the only thing in what you want to end up with is a cosine. So if you can change what you have into what you want, you should do that. And there is a way, as Ollie said, to change sine squared into 1 minus cosine squared. Now, look at that numerator. What's special about it? It's a difference of squares. So it's going to be 1 minus cosine, 1 plus cosine, over 1 minus cosine. And now you can cancel. And we have exactly what we wanted now, don't we? We'll do one more. I think these are so fun. I never get tired of doing these. I could do them all the time. One of my favorite things to do. Okay, here we go. That's a big one. So take a minute, jot something down on your paper. What would you do with this mess? Shania, you got a plan? Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say that's the only thing you could do, but gosh, doesn't that make sense? You've got two fractions that need to be added. So let's get a common denominator, and our common denominator will be sine times 1 plus cosine. That will be our common denominator. So this one needs to be multiplied by 1 plus cosine. And this one needs to be multiplied by sine. Now some of you do that in your head, and that's fine. Just be careful. Be careful. So both denominators are now the same. So I can work on my numerators. What am I going to do here? Foil. That's a foil, right? So that's going to be 1 plus cosine plus cosine squared. That's all that. And then I got a plus sine squared. Anything there popping out at you? Meg?
Cosine squared and sine squared equal 1.
That's a 1 right there, isn't it, guys? You can't not notice that. You have to notice that when you've got a sine squared and a cosine squared. That makes a 1, and we have another 1 down here. So I'm going to go ahead and say 2. And then can I add these and make it 2 cosines? So I have my 2, and now I have 2 cosines. Okay. We're almost there. What do you notice? What about this? Can I do anything with that? Factor out a 2? And what happens when I factor out the 2? I'm left with 1 plus cosine, which is exactly what I have in the bottom. So that leaves me with 2 over sine, right? Which is 2 times 1 over sine. And what's 1 over sine? Cosecant. So I've got 2 cosecant. All right. You feel a little bit better prepared for the quiz you're going to take next time.